Hello, everybody. I'm Adele Levine. This is the House Medium. I'm your house medium. And today I have a special episode. I am bringing my friend Jeff on. You know Jeff. Some of you don't know, but you will know Jeff Hartman. We did a podcast called When Starbucks Was Fun, and he is in my book, Sear, the Origin Story, in chapter 6. I had to look at it myself. Let me tell you, when you write a book, it's a lot, and your brain turns to mush. Anyway, he's at chapter 6, and this chapter is Starbucks saves me, and I am going to go over this with him, but we're also going to kind of shoot the shit if that's okay. We're going to go over how, about like trauma and how we didn't know a lot about each other. He's reading my book going, I had no idea all these things. And that's what happens. That's what happens a lot. People go through stuff. People have so many things in their lives. And that's why I wrote this book, to know that even though you think you're the only one, you're not the only one. Here's this short little, tiny little bit of beginning of this chapter. Once upon a time, long, long ago, before people ever heard of the name Starbucks, the Green Mermaid landed here in Los Angeles. They were still pretty new to the world. I was hired to open the fifth Starbucks in Los Angeles, located in Studio City on the corner of Violin and Laurel Canyon. So this is where a lot of the story begins for me. And I had Jeff on here before and we've talked about it, but we're not going to just talk about this. I promise. I know some of you are interested, but also we're going to just talk about, things like, spirituality and how we just hid who we were and how we suffered in silence and how mental health is so new to us. Thank you, millennials. Thank you, Gen Z, for helping us out. And, just talking about how we actually helped each other through a difficult time and we didn't even know it. We kind of trauma bonded before we knew what that term was, but we also had this kind of fun, exciting time when Starbucks was brand new. So there's a lot of that. So we do step into the Medium Brew Cafe, by the way, for a while. And we also go over a little bit of our predictions, or what we really feel Starbucks heard our last podcast because of all of the stuff that they're changing. So I hope you enjoy this episode. It's fun. Just turn it on and just listen, and you'll be like laughing and just hanging out with some friends drinking coffee. And don't forget that I don't know if you know, but I did extend my 50% off of all my readings because I know that people have really responded and said this has really helped them. So listen, the world is already, it's still difficult. So here you go. I'm going to give that to you. And lastly, here in LA, if you're in Los Angeles, I'm doing another medium salon May 31st. I had 7 spots, but now I only have 6 spots. So I hope to see you there. Bring your book and I'll sign it, and I'm excited for you to hear today's episode. Jeff Hartman. Hi, everybody. So, you might remember this person. We had a little podcast for a little bit. I've also talked about him a lot of bit. I also talked about him a lot of bit in my book, Sear, the Origin Story by Adele Levine. You can get it on Amazon now. And his name is Jeff Hartman. This is Jeff.
Hello,
Hi, Jeff.
everybody. Hello
So,
again.
hello again. So, I know some of you have reached out to me and told me how much you love Jeff and you miss our old podcast. We did have a podcast. If you want to go listen to some old episodes called When Starbucks Was Fun, where we kind of just went over.
And predicted the future of what was going
First
to
of all,
happen.
we're going to get into that. Okay. We have to touch on how we feel Starbucks actually listened to
Talk
us.
about Sears.
Talk about Sears and talk about they pretend they didn't hear us and now they're making changes. But anyway,
Another topic.
we're going to get
Another
into
topic.
that. We're getting into that topic because it's been interesting. But I wanted to have Jeff on because I wrote a book and about my journey of how I started to use my site. And when I wrote this book, I really thought people were going to resonate a lot with that part. Like, how did you get started? And people have, but they mostly have resonated a lot with the story of my life and the things I went through. And Jeff is a big part of all of that time because in the chapter that I talk about, the Starbucks chapter, He is the first medium reading I did, and he and I worked at Starbucks, the fifth Starbucks. I'm going over it for those of you who know the story. You don't have to go like, yeah, yeah, Dale, I know. This is for the newbies. For the newbies. He and I worked in the Starbucks, the fifth Starbucks we opened in Los Angeles, number 5 in Studio City, and I went up to him and started doing readings. So I wanted to kind of have him on to give you his perspective. Also, it's just fun to visit with Jav. He's funny. He's fun. But to kind of go over with him, what did you think of that chapter? First of all, because I did,
Uh,
I
it
didn't
was
tell him I was writing.
no, it was very nostalgic. It reminded me of like the 90s. Reality bites. I could hear the cassette going into my tape deck in my
Yeah,
Honda. Um,
best movie ever.
so I first of all, congratulations on the book. Because
Thank you.
that's a huge accomplishment. It is something I have thought of doing many times. I'm not a
Thank you.
seer, but just, of writing a book about, a memoir, so to speak.
Yes, this is a memoir I wrote.
And it's really good, I have to say. I'm
Thank
not
you,
that I'm
Jeff.
surprised, but I was like, I didn't know half of, I mean, look, I've known you a long time, but you never really have gone into all of the pre stuff or what you were going through at the time we met.
Right.
I think everybody back then, and you touched on it, we didn't talk about stuff like that. Everybody was
Mhm.
very quiet about like if they were going through something tough, they'd just be in a
Mhm.
shitty mood and you'd be like, "Oh, she's a bitch," or "Oh,
Yeah.
what an asshole." It was
Right.
like and what I've come to realize as I've gotten older or as we've gotten older, as we've aged, uh,
Yeah.
is
Well,
that
I mean, I didn't age, but
well, you're drinking the blood of something. I don't know what.
yeah,
Um,
that's another book.
but that everybody's going through something at some
Mhm.
time,
Right.
and and we all wear different masks to sort
Mhm.
of cover what we're really going through. Some people are able to hide it easier, and some people are wear everything out front. You know what I mean? So that's what really struck me is that everybody had a story at that time. We don't know what anybody was going through. I mean, I remember when we talked to Brenda on the Starbucks was fun
A funny
podcast.
fin when Starbucks was fun.
When
Just,
Starbucks was fun, sorry.
in case you wanna look it up.
Um, and she was saying that she was having
Difficulties.
stuff, and
Right,
nobody
and
would
she
have
was
thought
going
that.
to psychics, and I
Yeah,
didn't know, and here I am trying to come out as
right.
a psychic and too scared and totally assumed she "Is this your voice? Is this do I hear
What do you
do I
hear?
hear did your phone ring?"
No, nothing rang.
Oh, I
Oh,
thought I heard
I had a notification. Sorry. Let me
but
turn
there
off my
wasn't somebody talking?
No, dude.
Oh, damn, okay.
Uh,
It's happening. It's happening.
You're, who's talking to you now? Is it
I
my father again or my mother this time?
it
How come
could
we're in
be
a podcast?
I definitely, totally just so you know, I didn't tell Jeff this, I just remember this. Sorry to interrupt what you were saying, I just wanna I don't let me forget,
Okay.
okay, that I was about to tell you this.
All right.
It's regard to writing the chapter and your father. Okay.
All right.
But to your
So
point, you're right, we
yeah,
didn't talk
we
about
didn't talk
things.
about it. So
No.
like I
Gen
was
X.
going, yeah, we sort of were taught to, I think we were probably the last generation to sort
Yeah.
of be raised by boomers to say, suck it up. That's just part of life. Just go forward and,
Okay, something to cry about is was I
right.
remember hearing, or
So
that's life.
I so yeah, so it was interesting to read from my perspective because I didn't know all this stuff, your previous history.
Right.
I only knew that Adela when I met Adela, you're smack dab in the middle of the 90s. You're in a seem like you're always in a bad mood. You don't want to talk to somebody. You don't want to deal with people, and you're working at Starbucks. That's what it felt like. I, on the other hand, was going through, and my life was really pretty nuclear family. Like I
Mhm.
grew up with, 3 brothers, mom and dad, still married, would probably, I'm sure they would still be married today if they were both still alive and both worked. And, you know, very pretty Brady Bunchy background as far as like our lives. We didn't go to church
Mhm.
because in the 70s when we were going to we were going to church, my mom and dad pulled us out because we were going to a Baptist church and they were speaking about like anti
Tongues?
anti
Oh,
anti-gay.
okay.
They were speaking in
I thought you were
tongues.
gonna say they were speaking in tongues, la da ba da ba da ba da ba dee ba da ba 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 ba
We
bee.
weren't Shakers.
No, they speak in tongues, and I've been in those churches,
Okay.
let me tell you.
So
Like,
they were a lot of homophobic
anti-gay.
rhetoric
Yeah,
and stuff, and my
homophobic.
parents
Mhm.
were pretty sure back then that, even
Aw,
at
so
7 that I was a gay kid.
sweet.
And so my mom was like, "I don't want him growing up and his
Jeff was
brothers growing up."
loved, very loved.
So that's basically what we were
Mhm.
all like, my mom and dad, we hung the moon for all of them, for
Aw,
both of them. So
yeah, it's
when
very
my dad
nice.
was sick and then he was,
Mhm.
basically he was dying, I was at Starbucks, and for me it was more like that boomer, like just put on a happy face, do it. And for part of the reason is that Starbucks was really an escape for me from dealing with
Mm.
what was going on
Oh,
in the
yeah, that
real
makes
world.
sense.
In the real
Mhm.
world. In
In
the
the
real
real world. I used to say that, everyone. That's what he's referring to, because I used to say, "In the real world, nobody cares about fucking coffee."
But,
Yeah.
uh, so yeah, so I thought the chapter was really interesting. It made me feel, you know, really not it was a lovely little cap off to me by you. That was very nice. And yeah, I do remember all of that. I remember it like it was yesterday. And it was so crazy because
Well,
I
let
had
me back up for people who don't know what we're talking
okay,
about. Okay, so first of all, what Jeff's talking about is he's drinking Starbucks right now. I didn't have a chance to. I'm getting like sidetracked, blah, 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 but I didn't get a chance. I have to say this to you, Jeff. My new favorite. They brought back the Doppio on ice
yes.
in a short cup,
Yep.
but now they make it with the little ice,
Yes.
and it's perfect. Just saying, it's my new drink, Doppio on ice. I bring it home. I put a little almond milk.
That's
Anyway, we're gonna get into how we already know all this stuff, but we have a lot to cover. But I wanted to kind of get people to in case they're lost. First
yes.
of all, you need to buy the book, obviously. But second of all, I didn't. What Jeff's talking about is I write a lot about, and there's a podcast that I got interviewed on for everyone on listens to me are fans of them, the BCC Boys. It is coming out, and I talk a lot about the book on there. And I Jeff is talking about there was a lot of abuse I suffered as a child. My mom died when I was 10 days old. My aunt uncle raised me, so it was very Disney-esque, where, even my friends used to call me Cinderella. It was a very rough upbringing. And then my aunt got sick and she was dying, and she died when I was very young. And I had all of this stuff that had happened to me, plus bad relationships by the time I hit Starbucks. And so I had gone through all of these things and not healed from it. That's what he's
Mhm.
talking about. And we were like this OG crew, and we were all in our 20s. And when me and Jeff did our podcast, and we had Tony on, who was our manager, which Tony doesn't know, but I do a shout out to Tony in that chapter. Um, I wrote this book and a lot of people didn't know, by the way, and I was like, "By the way, you're in it." And there's some people I still haven't told them, like, if they find it, they find it. Oh, well. But Jeff's a little bit
Oops.
special. He's a little different because, of what happened, and when I started working at Starbucks was when I was really kinda having this true awakening of my sight, and Jeff was like my guinea pig for that because I knew his father had just passed. And I guess the unfortunate thing is that, like Jeff said, we kind of saw the outer masks, and my mask was like, I'm tough. Nobody mess with
Mhm.
me. I've
Mhm.
been abused. I've been hurt. I've been thrown to the wolves. So that's who I am now. I'm just angry all the time. And if that scares people away, so be it. But in the inside, I really wasn't that person at all. And we just weren't, there wasn't mental health at those times. No one used the word at all. Like,
No,
we blasted music and screamed about it in our cars
a lot,
a lot.
a lot.
A lot. And if you live in LA, you have a lot of time in traffic to be blasting music and screaming in your
We didn't
car.
have podcasts or books. I
No,
mean, I don't even know if there were books on tape. Maybe there were at the
there
time.
was, but that was considered old people stuff to
Yes,
do. Like, that was, like, in the library. You had to go to the library to get it,
you were
and
like,
there literally was a tape that you had to put in a tape recorder, so we weren't doing that. So we were blasting music, and so when I met Jeff, he had just started, and so did a I went up to him and just started talking to him about his father
right,
who had passed.
right.
And Jeff was shockingly open to it. And it really is the reason why I wanted to give such a homage to Starbucks, a chapter. First of all, Starbucks called me. I mean, we've been saying this. But second of all, mostly because it was like Jeff said, it did kind of save us.
Hmm.
We kind of found this place. It was pre-corporate,
Right.
and we made friends and we had a chance to make a earning when really the
Yep.
options were very low for us. It was for Gen Xers, it was like
Hmm.
either go corporate in an office or you're screwed. That was kind of the options. And Starbucks was this weird, like, oh, we're a corporation that's a coffee shop. That was new.
It was all new. I mean, before this, it was very like mom and pop owned coffee houses.
Yes.
This was like the first coffee shop, coffee house chain
Chain. And
that
chains
really,
weren't big yet then,
well, not for coffee at least. I
or
mean,
especially for coffee.
McDonald's and
That's true.
like,
That's
you
true.
know,
Right.
that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. But
Right.
for coffee, and it was this new idea that
Mhm.
the Starbucks started. And, if we didn't work there, like I worked at a bank, I was a bank teller.
Right.
It was the worst job ever.
Yeah.
But I
And
mean, that
Jeff
was
is
the
not,
job.
and backstory on you is that he's a creative. So this was very a
Right.
creative soul.
Right. And it was a
So
creative outlet
mhm.
because, like we had said before on our previous podcast when Starbucks was fun, um, that we were this sort of like this island of misfit toys, kind of like mishmash
Yeah.
of people, and all of us in our 20s, and we were all artists of some kind or creatives of some kind.
Mhm.
And um, uh, it was it was the first time I had ever worked in a place that wasn't predominantly older people, like
Right.
older than me, like in their 40s or
Telling you
whatever.
what to do and
Exactly. Like,
right.
instead of having, like, a fatherly or a motherly figure as the manager, it was more like a brother, it was like, "Oh,
Because the movie like Office Space is very much that was in the 90s. Do you know, did you ever watch Office
yeah, I
Space?
did. Yeah, yeah, yeah."
Yeah, so Office Space is supposed to kinda show, like, corporate
Mhm.
America versus the younger generation, and that was what we were kinda trying to escape, I think, through Starbucks.
Right, and
Believe it or not, because it wasn't as corporate as it is today,
no,
so it's
and
hard for people.
it was a new company. I mean,
Mhm.
it wasn't new, but it was new in that it was expanding so fast.
I mean, we opened the 5th Starbucks in LA, that shows you, like, there's, like, 5 just around me
Right,
right now.
right.
Yeah.
No, I could throw a quarter and hit 7 in every direction.
Exactly.
Um, but, back then, it was, at any rate, it was very non-corporate. You were right in that respect, in that it was corporate, but it wasn't like corporate.
Right.
We knew what we were getting into when we started, as far as like we were
Let's put it this
expected.
way, it was corporate, it was not corporate, it was uncorporate enough for me to start reading Jeff in the middle of him making drinks. And me just, like, running out during my break and smoking in my car and running up to Jeff while he's making drinks. Did you ever would see that today? And
No.
giving him a medium reading about his dad and then running away. Today, a person would get into trouble for that or
Well, and being that we were only the 5th store. The
Right.
corporate headquarters was still in Seattle. I don't think
That's
they
true.
might have had one somewhere, I don't know, local, but
Mhm.
it wasn't like we were being overseen all the time by, like, some corporate head. Do you know what I mean? So,
Right.
it gave us a little more freedom and a little more leeway,
Yeah.
and, like, and we talked to each other. I mean, we sort of became our own social circle, as odd as that sounds nowadays, because I don't know if people hang out with their work friends that often anymore. Maybe they do. I mean, let me know.
Right.
But I think that because we were all in this weird time, and there was no, smartphones or computers, even rarely. I mean, we had like
Mhm.
to do our homework on. I mean, I used a computer in college. That was basically it. But there were no like social media or anything like that. So
Right.
it was a way to like meet younger, our age people and
Mhm.
connect with them. And we did. We hung out a lot. I mean, there were different little cliques within Starbucks. I mean, there was like this clique.
Yeah.
But
Right. I
so
mean,
yeah.
we would work till like 12 a.m. and then go down to West Hollywood and go dancing, and by the way, if you're familiar with WeHo, it was not the way it is today. It was like
No.
2 little clubs
Yeah.
that to choose from, and we thought we were very alternative and cool because we were trekking on down to WeHo, and it wasn't called WeHo, by the way, it was called West Hollywood, it was just West Hollywood, and we would go to the club, and it was kind of not where everybody was going. It was so not like today
Mm-mm.
that when I would go as a straight woman, the men would look at me like, okay, all right, you seem okay, you seem okay. I remember going like, is this cool? I don't want to disrespect anybody. It wasn't like today where everything's infiltrated, and West Hollywood is just
Yeah.
like crazily built
Crazy.
up now, like
Well,
it's a whole different world.
the Abbey, when we were going down there, was
Yeah.
a coffee house. It was a
Oh,
coffee house. It sold
right,
pastries and
right.
coffee. It was like a Starbucks, but it was independently owned.
And now the Abbey
It's
is, I
like
don't know,
everybody
a club.
I have not been to the Abbey since it was became this phenomenon of,
I
like,
have, and it's problematic today. It's not
yes,
like
that's what
what
I've heard. That's
yeah,
what I've
it's even when I was there, I was having men like and believe this was years ago, by the way, when I was a little younger. I would have men like I was like, "Are you is this a straight guy pretending?" Because it started to feel like a weird vibe. I couldn't tell what was happening
mhm,
there anymore.
mhm,
But
mhm.
when we were going, we were kinda really going I feel like we were kinda pioneering stuff. We were kinda saying, "We're gonna let people be who they are." The one thing
Right.
I did give props in my book to Starbucks in that chapter is that they were very accepting of LGP,
Oh, yeah.
and at the time, it wasn't called that, but they were actually written up a lot as being very gay friendly. A
Yeah.
lot of our managers, our district managers, we knew were out, and they offered
Yep.
same-sex, marriage insurance, but they just called it domestic partners. That's how they
Domestic partners, yeah.
kinda got around it.
Mhm, mhm.
And I even was able to get insurance for me and my boyfriend, and that was really hard to
Yeah.
find to, like, go, "Oh, you're gonna honor that we're not married." I know people think all this doesn't seem, like, progressive, but it was for the time because
Oh, at the time.
getting married was the only way to do anything at the
Right,
time.
right.
So, yeah, so I feel like there was so many things that helped us, and when I reached out to Jeff and walked up to him, I really was looking to be validated, but I really didn't expect it and at all. And I think the reason why I wanted to put so much time into it, it wasn't just that because I did do some other readings that I talk about with my in the book with my first boyfriend and everything, but it was kind of more like someone I didn't know, someone I worked with. It was kind of like if I could be in this environment, my work environment, and talk to a stranger I don't know very well because he was a stranger to me at the time because he had only been working very short time there and he
Mhm.
can be okay with me, then maybe I shouldn't be so scared of this. It was kind
Yeah.
of like I was hoping for it and not hoping for it at the same time.
Yeah, it was I started in November, mid-November of 94,
Yeah.
and my dad died December 10th of 94. I
Mhm.
think we had maybe worked 1 or 2 shifts prior to that, so, and, you know, to your book's, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but
Credit?
I
I don't
didn't
know.
yes, I didn't I was told by a couple of people that, just to avoid Adela, just do what, don't try to engage too much because she kind of has a chip on her shoulder. That's sort of the idea that I came prepared with. So being somebody who, I don't at the time I didn't like confrontation.
Confrontation.
Now I don't care.
Okay.
But that's also being older and, more,
Mhm. Mhm.
having gone through enough. Um, but yeah, so I just sort of was like, okay. And, I just would be like, okay, I'm working with the dailies. All right. It's going to be fine. We're going to get along great.
Oh my god.
We're going to get along great. We'll talk about biscotti and rugulas and madeleines, mandolins, all the stuffs. But so we didn't engage that much. I mean, everybody knew at the Starbucks when my dad passed because I had to call in and be like, I'm not
Right.
coming in.
Right.
And then so it was maybe a couple weeks after that. So I want to say it was maybe December-ish, maybe it was January. I don't remember. I can't think it was that much later. It was probably a week or two later I went back to
Mhm.
work. And that's when we happened to be working on the same shift. And I think I was actually working a mid shift, which was 12 to 8, I think, at the
Mhm.
time. And you were coming in as a closer because you
Yeah, because
closed a lot of
I
the
always
time.
close, which is so weird to me because 'cause I'm a morning person, but I didn't like the morning crowd.
Right.
I didn't like the morning customers, they were
Well,
too
you're a
demanding.
vampire. You're a vampire. So,
Yeah, we're a vampire. I mean, we'll talk about it. That will be later.
so I just remember you came in, and I think I was rinsing out milk pitchers or something mundane like that. I don't remember who was working with me. That doesn't matter anymore.
Mm-mm.
But I just remember you coming up and you were almost like you wanted to say something, but you were kind of like, oh God, here we go. Like I think in your mind you were like, fuck, here we go. All right. How do I say this? And you were like, I need to tell you something. And I was like, honestly, all I thought was, did I do something wrong or did somebody hit my car in the parking lot? Like,
Wow.
what is
These
going on?
are a wide range of things here.
Because you and I didn't talk like about anything like
That's
that meant
true.
much. You know what I
Mm-mm.
mean? So
Yeah, that's
I
fair.
was like, okay,
Mhm.
okay. And you were like, I need to tell you something. I don't know how you're gonna take it. If you, don't want me to talk to you about it, just tell me and I'll stop. And I'm like, okay, like, what's the big secret? And you were like, your dad's been visiting me. And I was like, really? What did he say? And you were like, are you okay with this? And I was like, yeah. What did he say? I gotta go. I'll be right back.
Because I literally
Cliffhanger.
I
What did he say? Tune in next
because
week.
it was like, "Come back to my next week for Starbucks spiritual readings." I don't know. I was really shocked.
Mhm,
I You have to realize the whole reason why I wrote this book was so that it was very hard to write. It took me 25 years. I didn't try to write it for 25 years. I tried different versions to avoid this book. I
mhm,
tried to write my parents' story. I tried to write all these other stories. And every time I wrote it, people said, and people's feedback would say, I feel like you're not talking about something. And I was like, what are you talking about? The fact that I'm psychic and I talk to dead people? Couldn't be that. Maybe it's my whole history of my abuse and all the things I suffered. And nah, everything was great. Everything was great. Everything was wonderful. Just pay attention to this story. And
right.
people kept saying, like, no, it just feels like you're holding back. And so I wrote this book so I wanted to show people, like, becoming into your true self is very hard
Mhm.
no matter what it is. And that moment, it was like, I'm really going to, like, say this out loud to someone I don't know. It was one thing when I was reading my boyfriend's mom, who I was practicing on, which I talk about in the book, but I was
You were
like,
coming out.
I was
You
coming
were
out,
coming out in
and I
your
was
own way
coming out to, like, at Starbucks. At Starbucks
to
during
somebody who was already out. No,
who
I'm
was
just
already out, but I was
very
coming
out.
we have a term in the work I do, we call it coming out of the broom closet. I was coming out of the broom closet. That's what they call it in the
That's
witch
kind of
world.
awesome. I kinda
Yeah,
love that.
they call it coming out of the broom closet. So I was coming out of the broom closet with Jeff, and I thought I was doing it, wasn't really thinking it was 100% for me. It was mostly because I was like, "I'm gonna try this," and then your dad would not, like, stop. He was like, "He's working. You could do it today." And I was like, "No, no, no, no." And I tried a few times and I was too scared. And so I thought, "Okay, this is gonna be cool for him, but this could be really cool for me because I could really see if this is real or not."
Mhm.
But the fact that he was so accepting kinda scared me because I felt like, "Oh, this is real." And because I went up to Jeff and I said, "This is what he looks like," and he confirmed it was what he looked like, and I was totally expecting him to say, "You're really kinda irritating me," or, "This is offensive." I mean, Jeff was a very lovely person. He did not have the reputation I had. He had the opposite reputation of being sunshine and rainbows, and I had the reputation you just heard of, like, don't, Darth Vader. But and I liked it that way.
Mhm.
And at the time, it was kind of keeping people away. So I knew he would be lovely about it, but I just thought he was gonna be very like, "This is too weird," and kind of like, "Leave me alone" about it
Right.
in a nice way. So the fact I kind of felt like pressure for one, I was like, "Oh no, now I have to, like, continue to do this." And I got scared. And then your dad, lays out all the rules. And I do talk about
Yeah.
this. You should listen
Mhm.
to the Bigfoot Collectors Club. It's going to come out.
Okay.
Sorry, BCC, I told everybody, but it's coming out. I'll send it to you. And they were like, "You mean he gave you the rules?" And I was like, "Yeah, he gave me the rules. This guy that I worked at Starbucks with." I mean, it's like kind of
You can't
weird.
write this shit.
We're
But you
just
did.
making
I'm
we're
just
just
kidding.
making some macchiatos over here.
No, we weren't even making macchiatos then. I
Oh,
don't think those were around yet. We
we
were
were
making
making
mochas.
we were making plain regular macchiatos, not the
Right.
with all the shit in it and
Caramel.
all the caramel and stuff. So I think that I wanted to tell you when I wrote this chapter, I did talk to your dad while I wrote it. When I wrote about you, and I was like, "So I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna put it out there." It's like, "You started all this." And he's like, I could feel him very excited and proud and
Mhm.
like, "This is good for you," and him saying, "This will be good. This is good for you. This is it." I did try to help you, and he was kind of like, I could feel him and I could hear him. By the way, not to say that I didn't go a little insane writing this book. At one point, I literally
I can
keep make
imagine.
I could keep making the joke that I understand the movie The Shining now because
Yikes.
he went crazy writing a book. That's what I felt like. Except for I already see spirits, so
Right.
that was yeah. But I did. I talked to your dad, and I did feel like it was a full circle moment where he was like, "Yeah, this is great. Yeah, you should do. I'm really. This is what you should. This is what we all want you to do, and we're very happy for you." So it's very interesting to talk to someone else's father, but they're helping me come out of the broom closet and help his son. So it
Right.
is a very unique experience. All while Jeff is
Right.
cleaning out milk pitchers from at Starbucks. I don't know what
Well,
that part has to do with it, but
I will
maybe.
say I will say a little backstory. My mom, I think we were always kinda raised with this I mean, we were all
I
kinda
was
raised
gonna
with this
ask you
idea
what's your experiences with the
of
spiritual
like,
world and stuff?
uh,
Mhm.
dreams. Like, especially
Mm,
dreams, like, my mom and my aunt would have
okay.
had, like, premonition dreams, they like to
Oh,
call it. So,
yeah.
if something happened, like if my mom, and this is my whole life. I
Oh,
just
cool.
remember my dad being like, "Oh, you had one of the dreams?" And my mom's like, "Yes." And so he's like, "Okay." So, like one time my little brother was supposed to go out on a boat with like my uncle and my cousins, and he was like, my mom had a dream that something happened to him on the boat, so
Mm.
they called my uncle and was like, not gonna be able to go out on that boat. Another time, and so it's been it was not foreign to me. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Yeah.
And another time, my mom said she thought she saw my grandfather, her dad, and felt him sit next to her on the bed
Mhm.
right after he died. And she turned around and nobody was there. So there's things that I was open to it, and I
Right.
have a feeling.
Yeah.
uh, my instinct is that my dad knew
Yes,
I would be
absolutely.
open to it,
Yeah,
and so that's why he was saying to
for
you,
sure.
"Just go for it."
Just do it. Yeah, I
Yeah,
was
do
gonna
it.
say, so everybody, so now I know after doing this work for so long that the spirit world, there's no time there. So his dad knew, okay, she's going to be able to, she's going to want somebody to be able to confirm these things, and my son will be perfect because he'll be nice about it and he'll be accepting, and this is going to help her. That's why when I was writing that chapter, I felt like he was like, see, I told you this would work out
Right, right,
good.
right, right.
Yeah. And so they can skip through time very quickly, and so I feel like the reason I got, so they can also influence thought. So I felt like he was influencing my thought of try my son.
Right,
Try my son. It wasn't, people think that it's that the spirit world's like, "Oh my god, I have to talk to my son and start pushing." It's not that. It's more like he already knew the whole circumstances, and so he could
right,
influence my thought to say, "Listen, if you're going to try in a stranger, this is the guy. This is the
right,
one." And he'll help him, it will help you. We already can see from this realm this is going to help bond you guys. It's going to be good
right.
for everybody. And so I definitely believe that. How did you have so that, speaking of, like, cuz this is, about paranormal stuff usually, this podcast.
Paranormal.
Did you ever have any of those experiences yourself ever?
I've had several,
Oh,
but dreams, mostly dreams.
okay.
But the one that, so there's 2. I don't know how much time we have here. I'll try to keep it brief. But when my grandma, so the house that I live in was my grandma and grandpa's house. They had it built when in the 1940. That's where I live. So I feel like there's a lot of energy in this house.
Yeah, isn't
But
that cool? Let's back up. He lives in his grandma's house, and and he lives in it now, and I think it's so cool because you do feel that when you walk into your house. There is an
yeah.
energy.
So my grandmother passed in 97, and my grandma and I were really close. I was super close to my maternal grandmother. And she passed, and my mom was like, so the house went to my mom and her sibling. Her siblings wanted to sell the house. They were like, we just want the money. And this is 1997. This house was affordable then.
Yeah.
Let's be real. So they said, no, we want to sell it. And my mom's like, it's stupid to sell it. We can rent it out. It'll just be money making and whatever. And they were like, no. So my mom was like, I can't imagine, excuse me, got a little checked out. I can't imagine driving past that house and not being able to go in it. That was what she always said because she grew up
Okay.
here.
Yeah.
So she bought her brothers and sisters out,
Mhm.
and was able to purchase the house, get a mortgage, whatever. Her intent was to fix it up enough to rent it out to somebody. So at that time, I was still working at Starbucks. I think I was on my second Starbucks at the time. And I was living in a situation. I liked my roommate, but my roommate had some past issues. We won't go into her issues, but I wanted to move. And I thought if I could move into the house that was my grandparents' house, which always felt safe, a safe haven for me. It was the one place I
Mhm.
always felt safe and accepted. So I remember really. strongly walking into the kitchen. And this was when I had told my mom, "Hey, if I get a roommate, can I move into this house?" And she's like, "Well, let me think about it." So I went to the kitchen and I talked to my grandmother, and I was like, "If you let me have this, if you let me move into this house, I will take care of it. You don't have to worry
Aw.
about it, and you can move on." And because up until that time, so I'd had a dream prior to this where we were walking through the house getting it ready to be, fixed up or whatever. And in the dream, I look into the kitchen and my grandmother's sitting there wringing her hands like, how
Mhm.
people do when they're upset.
Right.
And to me it was like she was afraid to let go cuz she didn't drive. So this house was kind of like her castle. Like this is where
Mhm.
she was and where her she raised her family and her grandkids and blah blah blah. So I went in. So the next day in real time, real life, after I had this dream, I went into the kitchen of this house because it was empty. And I said, "Grandma, if you let me live in this house, I'll take care of it. You won't have to worry about it. And you can go where you need to go."
Mm.
And I
And
got
now
the house.
here you
And
are.
now I'm here. And I've been
Well,
living here ever
I'm
since.
gonna tell you what grandma really is saying. She was just anxious for you to have the house. Remember I said they will kinda, like,
Right.
impress you into, like, this is gonna be better for him. He needs
Hmm.
this. So that dream was definitely a visitation,
Yeah.
and also you seeing her it worked because you got like, "Well, I guess I should do this," because
Right.
she's like, I'm over here, young looking, hot looking again, living my best life. You're the one that needs the house, okay?
Right.
So we need to get you in the house. So I think that's awesome. But
Yeah.
I think that it's awesome that you were you I think that's probably I think the one thing I believe the internet has helped people is that people talk about things and then there's these different sides.
Hmm.
Whereas I feel like we were kind of brought up like, "Oh, Jeff is like got this sunshiny personality and I guess everything's fine in his
Hmm.
world." And then, I was known for this like other personality and I'm just like being difficult without knowing that I really am going through something.
Right.
And um I think that today people talk about things so they can benefit from each other if it's done in a nice way. If it's
Right.
done, there's a lot of positives to it.
Hmm.
And I feel like I guess what you're saying, like, just to kind of put a bow on it, like, Starbucks was, like, our way of creating our own little world. Like, there's worlds now on the internet,
Right.
like, on TikTok, there's witch talk and there's book talk and we kinda had our little world like that where we
Hmm.
were trying to our best to kind of find a place to be,
Right.
and with each other. It was just unfortunate that we didn't feel comfortable sharing everything. Like
Right.
it's just really interesting that we really didn't know anything about each other, deeper stuff
It's
about
sort
each
of like,
other. It's kind
did
of weird.
did you watch Severance on Apple?
Yeah.
That's
Yes,
what it was
I'm
like.
sorry.
You
I
walk
love
into Starbucks and it was like,
Severance.
and all we know are the people who work in the Starbucks.
So perfect.
We were the severed, we were the innies in
We
Starbucks,
were the innies for sure. We were like,
and then we walk out, and then we become
"What?"
the outies, and we're like, "Who the fuck are you?"
You know what I also realized I was thinking is very true. That is how it was
Yeah.
because we were kind of trained as a generation to be that way.
Yes.
Like, you don't talk about what's going on. That's like tacky. It's not okay. You look
Nobody's
weak.
business.
Nobody's business. You kind of look weak if you're complaining about your personal
Right.
life. But I also realized I was sitting here realized like in the book you probably read that you didn't know like I went through that whole like craft like I met you read that part already, right? Where I met Nancy and the witch
Yes.
thing. Yeah, so Jeff didn't know all so
I was like, "Damn."
in the book I talk about how I meet a woman named Nancy. She was a witch and It's almost like my mom died after I was born. So if you watch The Craft, the girl who has the natural gift, mom died after she's born. She meets a kind of evil Nancy.
Mhm.
So when The Craft came out, it was way after this happened
Oh,
to
yeah.
me. And I was like, now who was I? Because, we worked at Starbucks with a lot of writers and stuff. I was like, who did I tell my story to? Because this is very familiar. But yeah, all that stuff happened to me before I even met you guys. And it's not like I even ever brought it up.
No wonder you would say the real world, they just wanna fuck you over because you
Yes,
had
because
been through
I
that
had
whole you
been
had
through
just gone
that.
through that.
Yeah, I had been through a lot of that. Like my father, kind of abandoned me after my mom died. I didn't I didn't want to I tried really hard to show both sides, but he didn't abandon me, but after she died, I went to him and said, "I don't really know what to do." And he said, "Sorry, I can't help you." And I just was on my own in the world. I almost got sex trafficked.
I mean,
I
the
mean,
whole grooming thing was like I was in bed reading this on my Kindle because 'cause I'm 100, and
no,
I
but
was
Kindle's like new. That's new. That's new.
and I
That's
was like, "Oh my."
mhm.
I didn't know any of this.
Mm-mm.
I feel like I mean, I knew you had gone through some stuff, but I didn't know that kinda stuff. I was
And
like,
this was
"Oh my
I when I
god."
started working at Starbucks, I was like 24. So all this happened before then. I
Yeah,
had gone to New York and I thought this person was doing me a favor and I started realizing I was getting sex trafficked. And I
and that guy
let
was like, "I'm not gonna marry her." You're like, say what?"
I was like, yeah, I
Like,
overheard
"No
a
kidding."
from Nancy, the woman who set it all up, and I overheard a conversation going, "What do you think of her?" And I was like, "Why is she asking him what he thinks of me?" Yeah, all of this
Did
stuff
you ever meet
happened.
Jeffrey Epstein?
I didn't, but it was in New York, and it
I
was around
know,
that time. Yeah,
I
and
know.
I think I was a little. Oh, I was probably the right age. I was 19.
You were the right age,
Yeah,
white age.
white age because the guy was a white older male. He was 36. And so, yeah, all this happened. And by the time I worked at Starbucks, I felt like everyone else looked innocent to me, even though I was pretty not innocent, but I had gone through a lot. It seemed like their life
You had a
seemed.
wall up. You had a wall up.
I was like, why are we worried about the fucking pastry baskets? Let me tell you about what happens in the world. Okay.
I
People
almost
try to
got
sex traffic
pulled.
you. Okay, I didn't even know the term then. I
There
didn't even know
wasn't
what
a term.
I didn't even know what was happening to me. I just was like, well, that was weird.
Why is
Good
she
thing.
spooning me? That's weird.
I
Oh,
was
she
like,
just wants to be my mom. No, she don't.
yeah, my
No,
friend.
she don't.
That I was innocent because I was a virgin, and my friend who wasn't was like, that lady likes you, and I was like, I feel like she's mothering me because I was looking for mom. I was lost,
Mhm.
and she's like, no, that is not mothering, Adela. And I
No.
feel like she's taking advantage of you. And so I went through all of this. So by the time I'm working at Starbucks and everyone's upset about pastry liners, I was like, you guys, there's some real shit happening in the real world, okay?
And it all makes sense. It all comes full circle
Yes.
of why in the real world.
Yeah. Why I said that, because I, at that point, had been through a lot of pain, a lot of people. I trusted people. I trusted the wrong people that hurt me. And I was like, this seems like very small problems. I don't understand why we're talking about it.
And
And
I
I didn't
also
get it at the time. Like, this it's just a job.
and I also feel like that's I mean, having read your priorness to Starbucks,
Mhm.
why you sort of I wanna say had a wall up, but it was like
Yeah.
you didn't wanna
No,
get to know people that much
yeah.
because you were like, "This is just a job, I just wanna make my money, and I just wanna go
100%. I
home."
had more than a wall. I felt like a Teflon skin at that point, because I literally had people say to me, "Oh, you're so innocent. That's so cool." And they used to say weird things to me prior to that, like they wanted to corrupt me. So I started to realize I grew up in a very religious
Yeah,
household,
I didn't
very
know that
much,
either.
very bubble, and I was thrown into the wolves.
Mhm.
And I had to. And what's the reason why I wrote this book, and the reason why it's called Seer, is because my sight, my intuition is what got me out of all of these shenanigans and problems and people
Hmm.
because little something would click on going, hey, 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 you may want to pay attention. This isn't okay. And I was kind of out there in the world alone. So I think by the time I went to Starbucks, I felt like people seemed more like they had more of a cushiony life. That's how it appeared to me. But
Yeah,
of course, that's how people do when you go through things. You
right.
assume everyone is doing better than you and your life sucks. Because we didn't talk about, well, especially then, we didn't talk about it.
Not at all. Not at all.
Speaking of which, Jeff, let's switch
Yes.
gears. I know that was a little heavy. I'm like, you know what? Moving on from sex trafficking, let's switch.
And the segue is
The segue is we have to touch on,
okay.
speaking of Starbucks,
Mm.
how right we were. Okay, I know this is not the paranormal, but we let's go into my like online meet and brew cafe, and let's discuss how right we have been. We did a podcast where we
Mhm.
talked about,
Last year.
let's talk about the the dress code.
Dress
Everyone was
code.
wearing whatever they wanted. We used to wear black and khaki.
Khaki.
So for when I want to say this clearly for when I make a clip about this. For everyone working at Starbucks right now and is upset about the dress code, tell them, Jeff. Tell them what they're doing. They're not punishing them. They're
Going back in time.
Thank you.
They're going back to their roots of when
Hmm.
when Starbucks was much more successful. I'm not saying it's not hasn't been successful, but
But
it got a little muddy.
very many.
It became McDonald's, AM PM, slash Starbucks. Like it became kind of
It's
like,
true.
are there hot dog? Is there a hot dog somewhere? One of those hot dog machines. But I
Right.
think what they're trying, I think what the CEO is doing is
Okay.
he listened to our podcast, obviously.
Because let me tell you, we're going to go. I have a list in my. So this is list one of what we talked a lot about the wardrobe.
We
But
talked about the fact that when we started, it was known when we signed up for the job
correct.
that we had to wear black or
Black.
white on top, khaki or black on the bottom,
Yes.
and if I remember correctly, black boots or shoes with a
Yes.
hard, like a rubber sole, so we wouldn't slip in case somebody spilled a vat of mocha on the floor.
Because we made it by scratch in those days.
We had to dumpster dive into the cocoa powder um, with a snorkel. Uh,
It's true.
anyway, yeah. So
You're
the dress
correct about the
code,
boots, by the way. Yes, it was black and white or tan pants,
yes,
black boots, and I have seen people like they're like, "Oh, how dare you doing this to us?" And
yeah,
I'm like, "They're not." And I've seen some other people say this, like, they're not doing anything to you. This is an OG thing.
yes.
So
Well,
just so everyone knows, this was how Starbucks originated. And they're just trying to go back to the old
and
ways.
maybe it's the way. I'm not saying because I don't know that I don't work there anymore, but maybe it's
Right.
the way that the companies and giving the message. Like if they had just said, "Hey, look, we know you've been wearing everything you want. You've been wearing tie-dye shirts and like,
Mm-hmm.
t-shirts and jeans and tennis shoes. But we're going to go back to a time when it was a little more uniformy. And it's just because we feel like that was the golden age of Starbucks, which it kind of
Right.
was. Let's be real.
Yes.
And that's why they've eliminated a lot of like these boba fucking drinks
They
and
got rid.
weird.
Okay, wait, hold up. Two, we talked about the drinks and how we felt. And by the way, so I can add this to the clip when I clip this. We I agree with you, Jeff. Like we're not saying that this is like they're going to solve all the problems by
Right.
changing the wardrobe, and we're not saying that maybe they didn't say it to you guys properly. Maybe they should have said, "Hey, this is the old G way, and we're bringing it back." So we agree. Two, we talked about how we felt bad for the baristas because they had all plethora of drinks.
Oh my God.
They were like, "Oh, do people like? I mean, whatever you like, we'll put it on the board. We'll put it on the board." And
A
they have,
unicorn frappuccino. What the fuck was a
yeah,
unicorn
yeah,
frappuccino?
yeah. We're gonna put oil in coffee, olive oil coffee.
That's not on anymore. What I was like,
That sounds awesome.
Is that a laxative? What's happening?
They have taken, we talked about this, by the way, many, like over and over and over. And now they are removing all the drinks, Jeff.
I'm just saying.
And they're going back to the basics.
Back to the basics. And if
When
moving on
Starbucks
from
was fun.
that,
You could get that anywhere you get a podcast. Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
Look at the date of the podcast and look at when this stuff started going through. Now, I know there's been a huge uproar among the current baristas saying
Yes.
that it's because they want to unionize, which I think is a great idea.
Mhm. Yes, we applaud that for
Starbucks
sure.
is punishing them by instituting a uniform.
Mhm.
It's
No,
not.
it's not. They are trying to go back to the old ways, but this just makes me feel how long ago it was that they don't even know about this stuff.
Oh, Lord.
Okay. So here's the third thing. Speaking of bringing drinks back. So I go to by the way, the look of Starbucks we talked about. Okay. I haven't gone inside because I'm a drive-through girl.
Yes, you are.
But we did talk about how they would just there's a bank. Let's just slap a Starbucks sign on top of the bank sign and open up a Starbucks.
Right.
And that was ruining them too.
Mm-hmm.
What I did notice is my local Starbucks said, "Oh, we're doing a revamp. We're going to redo our whole." They did a whole revamp of the Starbucks to modernize it, to bring it up to date and make it look nice because, to make it look nice and decent. And have you noticed when you go inside a Starbucks, did they bring the condiment bar back?
I was going to say that.
Damn!
And we have been saying that forever.
We have been saying that forever, and we said it on our podcast, and we know you heard us, Starbucks. Just make a documentary and ask us to do it.
You're yelling. You're yelling.
Okay, sorry. We know you heard us. Sorry. I'll use my inside voice. We know you heard us, Starbucks, but goddamn, could you have just given us some props? And
here's the thing
credit,
that's so crazy is I walk into my Starbucks and I'm like, there's milk pitchers over there and napkins and coffee stirs and creams and sugar packets. And I'm like, wait a minute. Somebody heard what we were saying.
Listen, we're not narcissistic because let me tell you why. We're not thinking that we're so the amazing thing because we have proof. We talked about, we started the podcast when Starbucks was fun. We talked about specifically the Starbucks I talk about in my book on Studio C in Laurel Canyon. And shortly after that, suddenly they had a sign saying, alumni, come visit us. So they started an alumni thing that no one saw before our podcast.
That's up in the one I go to now.
Okay. So we know, and we also know from working there, from actually birthing the Starbucks, not the one you see today, but the Starbucks that started, that they tend to listen. And your caramel macchiato, we used to put caramel in the macchiato. They put it on the board. They used to ask us what we were drinking, the drinks we were creating. So we know this is something they do. They do listen and they do take note. So we talked about the condiment bar. Okay, so now we have condiment bar, dress code, the look of it, and limiting the drinks. Now let's go to, I don't think they are having, remember we were talking about the tags, the name tags?
Okay, wait. Can we talk about this now?
The markers.
You know what they're saying now?
What?
For here or to go.
Oh, I forgot. Oh, what? Okay. Okay, chills, motherfuckers.
You're killing me.
Okay, listen. We went on length about how we used to have a mug that you could say for here or to go, and you would get your drink in a mug, and you would sit in the cafe. Right. They brought it back. We talked about it a lot, by the way.
Ice glasses. Yeah. Every time I go in there now, they're like, would that be for here to go? And I'm like, I said to the girl,
I talked about this. They're probably like, thanks a lot. Now we have to wash cups.
I said to this girl, Georgia, who works at the one by me, I was like, I haven't heard for here to go in a long time.
Yep.
And so she's like, "Yeah, they brought it back." I'm like, "Huh."
Uh-huh. Interesting. So here we are. How many are we? Let's talk. Let's go over the number. We're
Dress
five.
code,
Five. Dress
uniform,
code,
look
uniform.
for here to go, drinks.
Five out of. We also talked about the Sharpies.
6.
Six. We talked about the black Sharpies. We had Tony, our manager, who told us that it was him who kind of came up with this idea
Mm-hmm.
because, again, he worked at a Starbucks before the fifth Starbucks we opened it. So he worked at like the third or something. So he's been there, and they made it the official like. And when we asked him, "Don't you think we kind of help implement the Starbucks today?" He said, "Yeah, absolutely."
Yeah.
They brought the Sharpies back. Now they're not
Use the same way.
handwriting it. But what they're not using it the same way because I don't blame it. It's a little too complicated now. But they do little smiley faces
Yeah.
or write your name on it.
Enjoy.
Enjoy. They're trying to just bring the look back.
Yes.
They're
And
like
little
we
love messages.
little love messages because I mean not that we were writing love messages, but we were writing people's drinks on there. We used
Yeah,
to mark
that's
it on
it.
there.
And then
So
eventually
that
names, but that would came much later.
yes. And I was telling Jeff that my when I pulled up and I saw espresso doppio on ice. I haven't seen that on the menu. I haven't seen doppio on the menu.
Mm-mm.
When we started, it was single shot espresso, macchiato, cappuccino, mocha, and latte, and that was it. Everybody, that was the whole menu. And there was espresso doppio or single, and that was the whole menu. They brought back the doppio and the short cup.
Do you think they'll bring back ristretto?
Don't even fucking get me started. Don't even fuck Ristretto. Fuck Brian. Okay, that's a little side thing to a person who came in
Mm.
angry. Now we talked about who Adela was in that time, and this girl stepped up to me and asked for a Ristretto, and I didn't know what it was, and she dropped a pamphlet because we used to have pamphlets in front of my face
Mhm.
and said, "Why don't you read about it?" Let me tell you how I should have got fired that day because the restraint I had, I should have awards for. As angry as I was at that time, let me tell you,
You've been gifted
I'm not a
up.
fighter, but I have a sharp tongue when I want to, and I wanted to go to town. I didn't, but that
And
just means like a short espresso. But no, but they have a doppio on the menu. I was shocked. I was like, wait, what? I was like,
they
what?
have uh they're really leaning into like the coffee side more so than the like
Mm-hmm.
weird like
Which is what we said.
boba olive oil. I mean, who would put olive oil? I didn't even try that because I was
I never
reading
tried it.
the idea of it was like,
Made me want to vomit.
yeah. I'm like, if
Yeah.
I need help cleaning out,
It's not going to get, but olive oil, I could do that at home. Yeah, that's actually what we talked a lot about was getting back to the
basics,
purity of coffee.
back to the basics, and that's what they're doing.
That's what they're doing.
And it's kind of weird.
It's
Now,
kind of weird.
let's see if they start putting like more comfy chairs in.
Yeah, because they used to have comfy chairs. By the way, they're probably going to hear this. By the way, if you want to keep getting our advice, it would be nice if you would give us a fee. That would be appreciative. But if you would like
Starbucks
to
for
know,
life, maybe. I'll take it.
no, we want money. Don't listen to Jeff. Cash, hard, cold, cash or check. It's okay.
Venmo me.
Venmo.
Um,
But yeah, comfy chairs. Comfy chairs. This would be next.
Here's the funny thing. This is a little story. So this cute little girl who works at this one by my house. Her name's Georgia. She's just so sweet. She reminds me a lot
Aw,
of me back in the day.
aw.
Very lovely, sweet, and she's always
I love how Jeff's like, she's so wonderful and sweet and lovely and amazing. She's
back in the
okay.
day. I said, not now. Um, and I said when she said that about for here to go, I'm like, oh, I haven't heard that since I worked at Starbucks. She goes, you worked at Starbucks? I'm like, yeah, I worked at Starbucks from '94 to 2002. She goes, oh my gosh, and I said, I actually helped open this store. And she's like, you did? And I'm like, yeah.
Oh,
And she's
sweet.
like, I heard they used to have carpet in here. I said, they did. And we used to have to vacuum it. every
I
night.
heard that used to grind it with horse teeth. Did you put the beans in the horse teeth and they ground it?
I heard you had to pluck your own beans. But I didn't tell her about spelunking into the mocha cavern to make mocha. Now
I
everything
know.
comes prepackaged.
I know
Back
everything
then
is
it was a
prepackaged.
drum 7 feet
Fresh
high.
ingredients at Starbucks. Just saying, if you want to keep following the trend. So, what did she say? What did she say? Anything
She was
else?
just
Or
like, "Oh, that's funny." I said, "Yeah." I said, "And the counter used to stop here." And she's like, "Really?" I go, "Yeah." She goes, "Oh," and then she walked away because she was probably like, "Okay, Grandpa, go back to the home."
she's like, "Wow, that's fascinating." This
And then she
guy
goes
is
in the
like,
back and she's like,
she's
"Some
like,
weirdo is telling me."
she's telling her, she's telling her friend, she's like, he's going on about where the counter is. Like, I give a fuck.
Really? Who cares?
We are that. Well, when I went to the drive-through, I said something. I think I said something when they were like saying, "Oh, we're going to be shutting down." I said, we had a podcast where we talked about this. I was shocked. The kid was like, "Really? What's the name of it?" Because you have a podcast. I was like, "Well, it's not going anywhere, but you can go listen." He's like, "Oh, that's cool." And I decided to just say that because I was afraid I was going to go on and
Yeah,
lose his interest real quick.
I
But
understand.
yeah, I feel pretty proud of ourselves. I don't feel like it's an accident. I don't think so.
No,
We have proof because
we were
we
talking about it.
we're
Time
talking.
stamped.
We talked about it several times, and we know a lot of people still that are high up in there, and we have heard that they do listen to things like this.
Uh,
They just didn't acknowledge us. Just saying.
Sounds like
But
that's the corporate way.
corporate way, doing the right thing. Do the right thing, Starbucks.
Taking ideas
Anyway,
and passing them as your own.
you're missing up on good marketing, by the way. Bring back your OG people and let them talk about things and get people interested. Just
You know what
saying.
they should do? Oh my God. Starbucks. Here's an
Starbucks.
idea.
Okay.
You do a reality show where you bring back old baristas to work in a now Starbucks and see how that goes. You have auditions and you bring it's like the real world, but it's Starbucks.
Like when they did a reunion for the real world,
You
right?
bring everybody back to work in a Starbucks for a day and film it.
Here's my question. Can we just be the people that hire? Because I've had nightmares of this before. Just wondering.
Can you imagine you, me, Tony, Matt,
Alex,
Alex, I don't know who else, Brenda,
Brenda.
all working in the Starbucks in City at our age
At our
now?
age now, trying to figure out what the fuck we're like. Where's the mocha? Where's
I'd be like, what button do I push for the sandwich? What? Wait, is that the panini? I don't. What is that?
I started telling people, I'm like, we don't warm things up here. What are you talking
Oh,
about?
it's broken. It's
It's
broken.
broken. Because in those days, we weren't allowed to make food because they didn't have a license for that. So we just handed pastries. I
How
could just
fun would that be? I would actually
watch that.
love to see
Well,
how that
you
works.
heard it here first, and I'm going to put this as a clip. And if Starbucks, let me tell you something. If you steal this idea and don't come to us, I am blasting every social media this clip. So I
Because what a
suggest
great
to
idea.
kindly approach us. Just saying.
I mean, look, of course you're going to have to pay us. Duh.
Of
But
course.
I'll wear black. I'll wear a stupid hat and an apron.
I will hire the people. I will oversee things. I will.
I'll be in the back room.
You'll be in the back room. We were shift supervisors. We will continue that, not knowing. Imagine today, we wouldn't
I
know
think
anything
that
what
would
we're
be
doing.
to take people like fish out of water, people who have moved on from Starbucks like 30 years ago.
Yeah, that's
Like,
us.
that's us. And, have had kids or maybe some even have grandkids now. I don't know. And like put them back in a situation back to the 90s, back when they worked at a Starbucks. That is good television, people.
Well, they would have to bring back the old school,
That's
like
what I'm saying.
the old school espresso machines.
The La Marzocco or
I
whatever.
think it would be good if they had both, so it would show like the new baristas and what they have to go through, and then it would show what we had to go through. It would be
Those
fun
old
to show
ones
both.
with our wrists nowadays, with all of us having carpal tunnel from
We
going
could
to
do
a
it. We could do
Porterhouse.
it for one day. For one day, just wear a brace.
It
Okay,
would-
great. Just wear a brace.
I don't know where my brace is.
Someone's waiting for their latte.
I, I pushed it. Is that the right button?
Well, the thing is, what people don't, so if you don't know, back in that time, it was real espresso machine. So we did
Okay.
every single shot ourselves. We had no timer on milk. We were the timer. So we had to steam the milk ourselves. So it would be fun if, like, half of the store, one store half was old school, other half was new school. We could
See who
see
makes it the
who
fastest.
makes it faster.
Even better, Starbucks
Boom!
games.
Starbucks,
Starbucks games.
call us. Starbucks Games, call us. We got it here for Starbucks Games. We came up with it first, and I have proof on tape. I mean, on digital recording.
May the odds be forever in your
Your
favor.
favor.
I
Who
think
will
that would
be
be
the fastest? That would be
that would be
hilarious
good old
and
school
good
versus new
marketing
school.
for them.
I mean, it's got to be an anniversary coming up, right? Wasn't 95 like their 25th? So it's 2025.
Come on, people, call us.
Starbucks,
Are you there?
hello,
Hello,
hello. You
hello.
know this is a great idea.
It's a great idea. People would watch it. I think. Hopefully, would they
I
care?
mean, I think it would be funny.
It would be
Just for
funny.
the novelty of it. You couldn't
The
do it
novelty
forever,
would be funny. Yeah.
but
And
just,
they're wearing like the old green, long to my feet, and I'm 5'11", aprons
that we wore.
that we
I
wore.
still have several of them.
Yep, he still has several of them. And we come in, and they have the new school. But to be fair, though, it would have to just be the same menu.
Yeah. It'd be the
Basic
same as
menu. The basic
basic
menu.
menu.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be so easy to like do like a
A
half
split.
this side, half this side, with like the green formica
It's
and
like
that
Hell's
blonde
Kitchen for
wood.
Starbucks.
My God, it would be so good. We have gone off on a tangent from mediums, but this is a
That's
great
okay.
idea.
This is a great idea. I mean, matter of fact, we have put a lot of great ideas. I think that you should do the right thing, Starbucks, and email me, Adele Levine at Gmail. Go ahead. Or you can just, it's easy to get to contact us on Instagram. We came up with it first, just saying. And if it comes out, oh, hell yeah, I'm putting this on every goddamn social media. And
I
I'm going
want
to
to go
flood
on The
it.
View.
Talk about Starbucks games. This is going to be great. This is awesome.
Oh,
Thank
that would be
you, Jeff,
hilarious.
for coming on. This was so
Oh,
fun.
so fun. Just
This
like
was so fun.
yesterday.
It was just like he just got right back in the saddle. We'll leave the coffee shop and
Oh, God,
the
so
Medium Brew Cafe, which is mine. No one steal it.
God, so
And
yeah.
and say our proper farewells. Thank you for coming on and
Oh,
going
what's
down.
lovely.
Let's see. I am definitely, don't think I'm not going to report if I start to see things about, and I am going to clip this
Mhm.
and I'm going to be posting, and we'll see. All of you heard it first. If there's anything weird going on, you heard it first. But also,
Here.
thank you so much, and thank you for the bond, and thanks for reading my book, and thanks
Oh,
for
of
being
course.
supportive and
It's a huge
letting me
accomplishment.
blast you to the world.
Really, really proud of you. That's really awesome. It's weird to say I'm proud of you. Is it weird to say I'm proud
No,
of
no,
you?
I like it. Look at
I'm
me.
proud of you. I think that's
I have
really,
mommy
really
issues. I
what a
love that.
huge accomplishment and very inspiring. And I haven't finished it, I will be honest, but I am on chapter 7.
That's totally fine. You're picking up right. What's funny is I wrote 7 chapters and then I abandoned it for about 5 years. So you're going to pick up right when I
Or should I wait 5 years
go.
and read the rest of it?
Please don't. Please don't.
But yeah, very
Please don't.
good, very
Yeah.
exciting.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure and forever bonded.
Forever bonded. Thank you so much, and to everybody, I'm gonna be announcing this is gonna be coming out in Barnes& and Nobles and some Barnes& and Nobles and some independent bookstores, so I'll be letting you guys know when that's coming out. Thank you for your support on the book. Please, write a review if you've read when you're done, and I'm working on the audiobook as well. But everything else, follow the House Medium on Instagram and me, Adele Levine, on Instagram, and you can find all the stuff I'm doing on adelelevine.com. Thank you so much. Follow yourself, follow no one, listen to your voice, and I'll see you soon. Bye.